everybody that's online, raise your hand if you have a comment or if you want to make a suggestion, whatever. Not, that way everybody online's not talking at once.
So Bobby came to me on Saturday, travel meeting, and requested that we meet with him in Contessa and their tribal council in reference to the situation that we have internally with Mason. So I'm gonna go ahead and open it up to Bobby or Contessa, and you guys to say whatever you feel what it said to us about what's going on.
And we have one that says she's in the waiting room.
If you could speak up.
For hers.
Are you, is everybody able to hear? I know they're able to hear me.
Can everybody hear?
Y'all just might have to remember to speak up.
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Could you just hear Lou? Dennis, could you hear Lou just now when she was talking?
No.
Okay, so just be mindful for
Yeah.
participants on there, just
Something
speak
else,
up when you're
something
talking. Contessa, do you want to start off? So I appreciate everybody from both sides coming together to try to come to some kind of agreement or compromise. I don't know how y'all, or what y'all expect of the meeting. I know I'd like to start off and talk about, what we can all agree on, or basis or facts, so that way we can potentially move forward. I know there's a lot of things that's going on, that we don't have full control over, things that other people done, but the one thing that's common to everybody is the governing laws that we're supposed to be abiding by as a tribal government. The outstanding issue, I don't know if y'all discussed, we talked about in the Saturday meeting, and y'all all made mention of, so we know that we have the outstanding illegal suspensions and disenrollments that were done prior to. So has there been any discussion to that effect?
I don't know that there's been any discussion, but, according to our bylaws, and it says in the, article, very end of the bylaws, it says the bylaws and Robert's Rules of Order shall govern the business and conduction of the tribe.
Yes.
So what wasn't said initially in the bylaws, then we look to Robert's Rules of Order. And I think that's what the previous council and Kenneth used for the disenrollment. Because and I had to look it up in section, I think it was Article 13, Section 72 and 73 gives them the power to disenroll people, have them removed from the assembly.
So I will say that's a misinterpretation that we discussed then, and we can go over it again now, but 72 and 73, those stipulate how to remove somebody from a meeting. So in Robert's Rules of Order is parliamentary law.
It is.
Right, so
It's all
that's the
legal.
proper way to remove somebody from a meeting setting when you're conducting a meeting. That would be a broad abuse of Robert's Rules of Order to interpret that to tribally disenroll, specifically when you get into the legalities of it, because in situations where disenrollment is contested in court, it goes back to, it has to be specific verbiage in the governing document, and it can't be vague. It has to very specifically state how you would go about the disenrollment and the grounds for disenrollment. So since the bylaws are void that, and then again, a misinterpretation of Robert's rules, I don't think would be the legal bounds for Kenny and Adrian's actions with CHP, to guide the council at that time towards that disenrollment.
Evidently, it wasn't just, that was the way they interpreted it, and I guess that's the way you interpret it also. According to what was written in your disenroll paperwork, because I went back and read some of this, it says Robert's Rules of Order states that every deliberate assembly has the right to decide who may be present during its sessions, and when the assembly, either by rule or by vote, decide that a certain person shall not remain in the room, it's the duty of the chairman to enforce the rules, using whatever force is necessary to eject the party. And in 72, it says a deliberate assembly has the inherent right to make and enforce its own laws and punish an offender, the extreme penalty, however, being expulsion from its own body. When expelled, The assembly is a permanent society and has the right for its own protection to give public notice that that person has ceased to be a member of that society. That's what they based everything on, as though.
And so y'all are gonna still interpret that as basically the grounds for disenrollment
Well,
and agree to it?
as far as I see, yes, unless somebody else has.
So,
That's what started the whole thing. I mean, that's what you guys received too in your disenrollment, was all that information.
I didn't receive anything,
You never received anything
nothing.
in the mail?
Nope.
Well, I don't know how we got copies of the stuff that they
That'll be
did.
my signature, because I do not have anything. I never signed for anything, I do not have anything.
It was supposed to have been sent to you by certified mail, was my understanding. Well, I
Bring
have-
it to my address.
I have copies of what it says, and it goes on to describe the removed person has repeatedly conducted himself, herself, causing persistent disruption to the safe and orderly administration of tribal government programs, usurping the duties of the duly elected tribal officials by purporting to speak for the nation in lieu of duly elected tribal leadership, knowingly and/or neglecting allegations, false allegations of impropriety against citizens, tribal leadership, and/or actively encouraging, promoting, circulating, and/or endorsing the above activities. Sorry. So you mean to tell me you never got this?
No. I have never
About you?
received that.
I've got one for you.
Oh, I got it.
You got it.
My only contention was that, again, it's a broad misuse of Robert's Rules of Order. It talks about removing somebody from a meeting, and then it goes in and talks about removing them from the body.
Yes, the
But that's in a
body.
parliamentary, the body is the parliamentary setting. So to try to take a citizen, status as a citizen, that's not part of the body. The tribal council would be the body in that
I would
instance.
figure the body would be
The
the.
governing body
the whole-
is what
The
that-
governing body, the
yes.
whole, the body would be the people, would be the whole.
No, ma'am. For Robert's Rules of Order is clear, and it's a guidance for the governing body, basically, and how to conduct business. To broadly use that to say that's the grounds for disenrollment, it is a misinterpretation.
That's all I
And-
know.
and-
that-
But that's fine. I mean, that's, again, if that's y'all's decision to stand on that and say that that's, the ground that you're willing to take, then I won't argue that point.
Right.
So we'll let the citizenship decide that at some other point in time in December. If that's the way they feel about it, if you explain it and everybody agrees, then you just move on.
And in that, resolution, what is the statement that says something about how we cannot go back and overturn something that my previously?
Well, that's illegal in itself, because the tribal resolution is absolute, any tribal resolution that you do, even the bylaws, you're allowed to amend. You can't make a law that somebody in the future
That's the
can't.
statement that stood out. to
That's
me
exactly
in the-
right. That's a
in the
statement.
Statement, so.
And we can go as far as, again, if we wanna hash this, that, resolution is invalid anyway. There's no validity to that resolution,
Well-
regardless of the name, if all the stuff that's on that. There was no quorum, there's not a proper vote on there. Pam and Kenny, Pam actually was the other person that voted on it, so you actually only have 5 signatures on the suspension document.
You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Pam is 8, Kenneth is 9.
neither one of their votes.
No,
count.
look at the thing again. If it's the one that I got, you got an absent person,
You had 7, Kenny's the chief. Hey,
and Pam was the assistant chief.
5, 6.
The assistant chief has no vote
No.
Except-
in that action. So therefore, you have a null and void resolution.
Well, evidently she did. I mean-
But again, that's a violation of the governing law. And the reason she did was because they went back and they had that in the Constitution, if y'all remember. The constitutional document allowed the assistant chief to have a vote and a basically seat on council. However, that resolution is all based on the bylaws from 2013.
And it was based on the bylaws, because the Constitution not accepted.
Yeah, the Constitution not gonna accept it.
That's exactly right. It goes back to the 13 bylaws.
It goes back to 22,
Which is.
March 4th, 22.
But it has to, the law, the governing document for the law is the 2013 bylaws.
Yeah.
And in the 2013 bylaws, assistant chief does not have a vote.
Right, well, it's not referenced in here, so I don't know. Remember.
It is.
Well, that was October 2nd of 2021.
No, this is 2022.
Well, and that
It's
document
Resolution
says,
030422.
yes. So that resolution was basically after the suspension resolution. And then because they done something with some verbiage in basically the set of bylaws then as well. But it goes back to there's not enough votes and it's basically an illegal signature as a vote. So again, you have a null and void. And then that's just, I'm not trying to debate it, it's just
Oh, no.
fact. It's null and void as a resolution.
All I have to work with is what's been presented to me, and nobody.
But you have the bylaws, so
I have
so
the
don't
bylaws.
misinterpret what's handed to you. If somebody hands you
No,
something
no.
that's illegal, it certainly should be your place to say, hey, this isn't correct. True?
I didn't know, I don't believe it is illegal. You do, but I don't.
But if it doesn't stand in the bylaws, if it doesn't stand up to your governing documents, as a representative of the nation, you're supposed to be following the governing document of the
I
nation.
know.
And so as a representative of the nation, if you don't follow that governing law, you are yourself in violation. And you are a contributor to that.
And last week you said it was illegal, and today you're changing your stance on that.
No, I didn't say it was illegal.
But,
I don't.
I got a question, and I'm gonna bring it up now. Why, Bob, I'm gonna ask you this first. Last Saturday, Dad, you was nice as you could be standing there talking to Lou and stuff, in this room. You got on Facebook, you started accusing her of everything in the world. Yes, you did.
I haven't made one post about Diane since then. Matter of fact, I don't think I've made any posts.
I think
You didn't say she was a liar, thief, or nothing like that?
Nothing. I haven't made a post on
Senior did.
I
Facebook
think
since
you're
I don't know if I got it.
confusing
Was it
the
senior?
rest of the
It could be.
population with Bobby.
But here we are now, see if you can
But
find.
I don't have any control over Facebook or what other people put on
But
They
no,
Facebook.
no,
use
hold
your,
on.
they use your
You
name.
ain't using your
What's
name.
your name?
Your name
Okay,
is my
okay,
name.
okay.
I'm Bobby
All right,
Thompson
let me
Jr.
let me finish, Bobby. You wanted to come in this
Can
room.
you find that, somebody?
Roxanne, why are you looking at me like that?
I'm
Let me ask
looking
you a
at you.
question.
She's just looking at you.
I'm just looking at
You come in this room, you wanted this meeting to sit here and discuss, but you're sitting there accusing already.
I'm not accusing
We're not
anything, Dean.
accusing.
I'm talking to Bobby. You're sitting there basically telling her everything she's doing wrong instead of sitting here talking about what we can do.
We're talking, only thing I'm saying is what mistakes have been made. So if we can't move to that and you can't agree that you made a mistake,
Well, I can't.
there's no way to move forward. Essentially, you have to, again, that's what I said, we have to go on what is fact and what is law in the governing documents and take actions in accordance with that. I'm not trying to place blame, I'm just saying there's been misinterpretation, willful or not, and it's incorrect. And basically, this meeting was to get together to try to correct mistakes, period.
But we're not. You're sitting there just going at her. You should have done this.
I'm not going
you
to
should've
anybody,
done
I'm
that.
going into
He's
process.
speaking his statement, his side. Let the two of them discuss that. Don't get defensive about that. There's no reason to get defensive about it.
Well, it just feels like he's sitting there.
I know how you think it feels, but that,
Yeah.
it's being misinterpreted, so just.
So I found
keep
the
it between
post
two
you're
people.
referencing, and if you read the entire post, it is signed Bobby Thompson Senior, not Junior.
Yeah, but that. can I say
That has nothing to do with us.
Okay,
Period.
okay, but it's still.
It doesn't matter. It does not matter what a citizen puts on Facebook. This is the problem
It
that
is-
y'all got y'allself
It is
into.
a problem.
You're
It is
trying
a
to,
problem.
but you're trying to involve yourself in people's freedom of speech. Facebook is a freedom of speech of a United States citizen. We cannot control what citizens put on Facebook. We can say, hey, this is a bad idea. You can voice that opinion, but you cannot control or do anything about Facebook, period, as far as citizens and them voicing information.
Yeah, but I just feel like it's a threat to our people when people post stuff like that. And then that's where the problem is.
So you think, let me ask you a question, me to you. Do you think it's a bigger threat a citizen posts something on Facebook versus illegal interpretation and willful misconduct and violations of the bylaws?
You said.
By the people that are supposed to be the governing body.
We can't go back and change.
That's right,
what's
you
been
can't.
happening.
But you're at this point in time still saying that you were following correctly a set of governing documents. And the fact is, period, the tribal council is a group of itself, basically the legislative body, right?
Right, makes the laws.
The executive body, which is Diane and y'all's group, assistant chief, right? The executive group, secretary, executive group. There's 3 different bodies. We don't have a judicial, right?
No,
But you're supposed to be equal and separate of, as the tribal council, which you're supposed to represent specifically is the citizens to make sure that the chief or the executive body isn't doing anything illegal. It's set that way to be the check and balance. And if the council is not a check and balance against a chief, an administrator, a law firm, then why would we have a tribal council?
That's the other thing of all of the supporting documentation from CHP that supported all of this action.
And you're willing to take and die on the cross for CHP?
No, I'm not dying on anybody's cross, but I'm saying there was legal advice
There
given.
was legal advice that Kenny and Adrian's properties were legal and correct too, right? By that same
That
firm?
could have been.
I mean, we can go we can get into the weeds, all that, but CHP, I would just make the suggestion that CHP's advice was very one-sided. There's probably a reason why y'all are not still engaged with CHP, and it was because there was more to the things that were going on, and certainly in it to collect the money that they were still getting.
Well, Luke knows, when we first started dealing with CHP and when she was the assistant chief, I was on council, CHP guided us wrong plenty of times.
Yep.
So, I mean, just because they're a law firm, they can be wrong.
Okay, I'm gonna make a statement, and it might not be liked, it's, at this point, I don't care who doesn't like what, and that's not personal, because I'm not in here. In observing what I've observed when I've gotten elected again to be assistant chief, and this situation has taken place with the disenrollment system. I'm not a person who has ever upheld disenrolling people, but I do feel like that actions need to be put in place when people act unaccordingly with some type of discipline, somehow, some way within the tribe, that needs to be done. I have often had discussions with people where I've said that the disenrollment process and how it happened was incorrect, because there was nothing, and there was never a process in place to disenroll and suspend people. It's not. There was nowhere in the bylaws on how to do it. There was really nothing within the new constitution that was supposed to be administered in reference to how to do it correctly. And it can be very confusing when you're sitting, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't go on the social media pages that people have, because I don't like to see all the crap that's on it. I just think it's pointless. These are internal issues, and I don't think it should be brought up to the public, because it shows ignorance, and it makes all of us look stupid. But at the end of the day, the gist of it is, the disenrollment it took place, the suspensions took place, there was not a process in writing to do that to people. And for us to try to go back and correct something that never had a process to begin with, I'm conflicted on how to handle that appropriately, because at the end of the day, you guys starting a whole brand new government for a government that already exists for a federal tribe. I understand your frustration about Adrian and Kenneth and everything that you guys were saying. I was in agreement with a lot of the stuff that was being said, and it has come to light from the investigation point of us being here and finding out all these things that we found out. But at the end of the day, I don't like the actions that were taken on going on social media forums and people, yeah, you might have freedom of speech, but why do you have to go to that type of forum? Why do you have to go to the forum of creating a whole entire new government where we're sitting in a room now where you guys feel like you're the duly elected, we are the duly elected, and it's like, when does that end? It's like, even us coming, even if we were to make a decision tonight, which I don't think we're gonna do that tonight, we're gonna have to discuss all this and possibly take it back to the citizens, where does that leave the situation? I mean, if you guys don't look at us as being the duly elected officials, then why are you coming to us to lift your disenrollment?
That's the whole, so that's the key thing is that you talked about. So one of the hurdles is how to correctly address the disenrollment and legal suspension as far as y'all are concerned. Several of the people are involved with it and signed off on that. So I would say, again, it's just basically admitting to the tribal citizens, hey, we made a mistake. We took steps that we didn't have as a legal entity, as the tribal council at that time, that we weren't allowed. Again, a mistake. So there is no resolution to do that. It's a simple statement letter that, hey, we did not have the authority to take these actions. They were not correctly taken, and you disavow those actions. Now, and I will say, what happened after that, what brought that about, and we talked about it last Saturday, you're talking about disenrolling citizens because they had a actual and turned out to be proven fact of the matter, a disagreement over a political body. So our disagreement started off as you're doing things that are illegal and in conflict as a chief, as a tribal administrator. None of that was directed at the council at that time.
Why did you call us all thieves?
Did I call you a thief?
Yeah, you did. In the half of your arguments, every time you started, you said the illegal council, they're all thieves. They're
Well,
crooked.
if you associate with, then you become
I understand
part
what
of.
you're saying, but you know the proper way, everybody's missing the whole point. It says all your BIA stuff, any tribal that enter a dispute, they cannot settle. The proper procedure is to go to federal district court and file your claims that we were all wrong, and that's what you're saying. We were all wrong, and we weren't wrong. There's 32 different tribes across this country that did less than you do, and they all got suspended. They got taken off the roll. And every case in the federal district courts has been upheld. The
Because
council was
if
not
they did
wrong.
uphold it, if they did uphold it, it's because there was specific language in their governing documents that allowed them to do that.
The language in their documents is no different than ours.
There
It
was
says
no language in the
The council
document.
is a legislative body.
I'm not gonna argue with you, I'm just gonna say that
Well,
you're
this is what
incorrect.
ours says.
Let him finish his.
You don't wanna hear what I got to say. Our bylaws say that the council is a legislative body. And the rules they make, if the chief signs off on them, it becomes a law. And the next line, it says, only at the council, make no laws that is disrespectful of the people, for the benefit of the people. The laws was made, but it got so bad, and I've talked to you 2 or 3 times, Bobby. I said, you went about it wrong. And you did.
No, sir, I follow the bylaws. The bylaws actually say for tribal council to do anything, they have to present it to the tribe.
No, it
And
doesn't.
the people.
No, it
Absolutely it
doesn't.
does, sir.
The only
It
time
says it
it-
in black and white.
Well, boy, why don't you have the rules with you, read them?
I'll
I
pull
do.
them up.
What it says is, we make the law, and we take it to the chief. If the chief signs off, it becomes law. It don't have to go to the people. Now, if he refuses
You're,
to sign off,
you're referencing
then we
the
bring it to the people and
2023
rise the chief. And
bylaws.
that's exactly what it says.
There is no 2023 bylaws.
That's correct.
But what we're saying here right now, we're wasting our time.
That's not in the
Well, that's
2013
the point of,
bylaws.
so, again, in section 4 of the 2013 bylaws, tribal council supervises the offices or business of the nation. Alpha, council makes recommendations to the nation. Bravo, council shall perform such other duties as specified by the bylaws. The council shall be subject to the orders of the nation. Do you understand what that means?
Yeah, I
Council
understand
shall
what
be
it means.
subject to the orders of the nation.
But read the rest of it. Don't
I
stop in the
am,
middle.
so that's, I'm reading this verbatim. None of the acts taken by council shall conflict with the best interests of the Monacan Indian Nation or the boundaries of these bylaws. In emergency situations, we can talk about that one later, the tribal council shall make decisions for the nation if no tribal meeting is possible. So, the very first thing, council makes recommendations to the nation. Does not say that council makes laws and enacts them on the nation. So, for you to take an action as council, you have to make the recommendation to the voting population. The voting population correctly votes on it, and then you take the action if it passes or it doesn't pass. But it all has to be presented to the nation. To the nation. Without a nation, there is no need for tribal council, there are no positions.
All right, I'm listening to exactly what you said. How come you didn't come to the people and here and be orderly and just walk in and say, you're gonna have a new election, you're gonna elect chief, council, and everybody's gone? You don't have that right to do that either.
Well, in accordance with the bylaws,
No, you
we
don't.
did take correct action.
So with that being said.
I'm not gonna sit here and even argue with you.
Going on his comment, that takes me back to my comment. Think of how y'all got in y'all seats. How did you get there?
We were elected by the people.
And then the first
We were
time.
elected by the
The
people.
very first time.
Yep.
Now, what happened there, that canceled? They were all illegally removed, right?
Yeah.
Y'all seats opened up. People voted, citizens voted, right, supposedly, to remove that cancel, right?
It was voted on in the room.
Okay, well, guess what? In their room, there was no cancel present at that meeting, first of all. Citizens had another meeting. They removed you guys, and a whole nother election happened. Where's the difference? One citizen is equal to another citizen. It's the exact same process that got y'all in place where y'all are now, where we are now. Even if it was a different hand of citizens, the exact same thing happened.
That vote in that room though, you said wasn't nobody present? Yeah, it was too. Anita Mayo, Susan Tyree at Liberty, when we took the vote in the room, the citizens
So
voted.
either way, you didn't have quorum to have a meeting. If you only have two cancels, you
You
don't
had
have
three.
quorum.
That was in September, though.
Yeah, you had 3 people there.
And they were already removed
And-
before the whole cancel.
It actually was 4 of you, okay?
Mm-mm.
Yes, it was too. It was Susan.
But that was in September of 2020, and in February of 2021, there was no tribal council present at the removal of that tribal council. I don't even want to argue those
Is that what
points.
Kenneth tried to remove? He wanted to
Yeah.
remove the entire.
That-
He
And
did
And
remove
it, and
it.
it did remove an entire council.
We're getting mixed up.
After he was
I'm not
removed.
getting mixed up.
No,
No,
no, Bobby.
Okay, what,
So
stop,
what I'm
one at a
just
time.
saying is
One
that
at
the
a time.
exact same thing happened. Citizens had another meeting, and they removed this body at an election. There's no difference in one group of citizens removing a body versus another group of citizens removing a body. These groups of citizens are equal. They all hold the same power.
One second.
Are they still in?
We're mixed up on Liberty College. That was over Anita Mayo and a check deal. That vote was
That has
taken.
no bearing on the
Red Bird
conversation.
Council.
That's been handled. All
Yes,
right, go ahead, Rufus.
we lost you. Coming back on, hold on a minute.
Hold up, Rufus, go ahead.
Turn it around the other way, you're.
The camera's still showing you when you come in, so
Yeah.
that you can't see.
Hearing. All right, go ahead, Rufus.
I can hear him just fine.
What was you gonna say, Rufus?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, I received that.
I can't hear him at all.
I can't hear you now.
We can't hear
You
him.
guys hear me all right?
Yeah, we can now.
Okay,
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. You know, just a comment, just sitting here, you know, I wasn't around for, just kind of drop, I wasn't here for any of this stuff. I've never taken a vote to suspend or disenroll. And I've taken a couple votes to reinstate. So I wasn't here, so a lot of this conversation, I don't know, man. I don't wanna say it's gonna stop this. But I'm somewhat disappointed that it took all 3 or 4 minutes for us to get into a situation where we're arguing over these bylaws and, because the bylaws are stuff. They're terrible documents, and they're junk, man. And so I just hate that it went straight to that, when I think, and I can't speak for everybody on council or that's elected, I can't. But we've had good momentum to start addressing the issue. My stance has always been, as a council person since I've been elected, is that we should really just take each and every one of these one by one, because everybody's situation and story is slightly different, and address it. We've been able to do that with a handful of folks, and I will say this, not a single one seemed merited to me. And so, kind of my gut feeling is that as we were, if we were to work through all of them, we would find that that would be the situation for, I don't know, 9 out of 10, you know. I just don't want this meeting to go any further where I feel like we're backsliding, like everybody involved. Because I do think there's been some positive momentum to get it addressed. And I know, and I understand the argument to do it all at once, and that the bylaws are being misinterpreted. I'm not a lawyer. You know, Bobby, you may very well be right. I guess my only feedback to that, if it was that easy, then we would have gone to court and it'd been done by now, I suppose.
Well, I'll interrupt you, so, because he made the comment to the court thing, right? Federal court is gonna be the last step in any situation, right? We've never addressed the disenrollments in a legal manner at all, whatsoever. We've never brought them up, because our contention was always that they were illegal, so they didn't merit any action on anybody's part. So the point we was at is, again, like Contessa said, there was an action taken, then the citizens took another action, but the difference was that the BIA backed the other side, right or wrong or indifferent. But again, equal action was taken by citizens, more citizens.
I guess explain to me, sorry about interrupting, but you guys help me understand, because again, I wasn't here. So when you say that there was another group of citizens who voted out, like the council at that time, or I don't know, maybe it's the one I'm on. Like, explain to me, what do you mean? Like, where was that?
In November of 2021, there was a meeting conducted, again, because the actions taken by Kenny and Adrian and CHP was retaliation for basically political reasons, to suspend and disenroll, or suspend at that time 9 people. So violating the bylaws is malfeasance. And whether the bylaws are good, bad, or indifferent, and I'll agree with you, those 2013 bylaws are junk. But they are also the governing document that you have to abide by, and any changes to that governing document has to be done in accordance with that governing document. Because this is what people put in place before I was here, before, you know, whatever. But a group of citizens voted on those bylaws. The federal government accepted those bylaws as the governing documents of this nation for federal recognition. So you have
I
to
guess,
follow those.
where was this meeting? So where was the meeting? Explain to me the meeting in which
The meeting
the
was
alternate council, just so I understand.
November 21st, November 2020. The meeting was conducted on a neutral ground at Liberty University. Same place in September of 2020, Kenny held a meeting because of, I think it was because of Corona or whatever, didn't have a big enough area. So we went back to the same place that the meeting was conducted. Citizens in person, there was 57 citizens in person. Via verified.
Is it your interpretation then, I guess, because I think I'm feeling this out. Is it your interpretation that any group of citizens can get together at any place at any time, and that's the governing body, and they can make a vote?
Well, they essentially, because you're void of that time, we did send Kenny and council and all them basically notification. So in accordance with law that backs that up, 30 days prior to that meeting, we sent out the notification that, hey, the citizens want to have a meeting. We actually wanted to have it, you know, and have them involved, because it was an action to remove, and we knew that was going to happen. So they were extended the right to stand and have due process, which has not been afforded by anybody else. So
That part I agree with you, and like I said, but.
So,
I guess
extended
I'm
due
stuck on
process.
I'm stuck on this point at the moment. Does any elected official need to be present at all for there to be a meeting? Or can just a group of citizens get together and that's a meeting?
Well, that's proof. That's what it goes back to in February 2021. Essentially, just a group of citizens got together, and it was only 37 in-person citizens at that meeting that allowed 10 Zoom votes. I believe it was 10 people on Zoom, and they removed tribal council.
Yeah.
So yes,
Right, and
president.
I guess I agree that was wrong. Okay, so
But that doesn't matter. That's the precedent that was set.
Right.
So you
Well, I
set
guess
precedents.
The chief can call a meeting, right? Like an elected chief can call a meeting, and then council as a whole can call a meeting. Can citizens on their own elect whatever the number is, 50 people, and that be a meeting.
Yes. Again, if you go through the process and you extend out with notification to whoever the officials are, because as citizens, the meetings were being blocked. So, I mean, if you don't remember that, that was happening. Kenny and them was canceling.
Yeah, no,
meetings.
I just don't know. I wasn't involved. I mean, last thing I want to do is take all what's going on. No, I don't. I'm not sure I agree with you on that point, though, that like at any time, a group of citizens of no in particular number can get together, send out invites, and that's enough to take governing action.
Well, then that would just invalidate the February 2021 actions then, Rufus.
That would
Maybe so, but
invalidate-
I would say the chief called that meeting, there was elected official there, right? Like, wouldn't that be what the argument would be?
But he'd been
What it-
removed.
It was.
I guess it's all silly, and I don't wanna really get into back and forth with this, because honestly, like, my issue has been, again, as someone that was not here, just in general. I have always been in agreement that no due process was given. Right? I'm not a lawyer, I'm not an expert on these terribly written bylaws, but I got some common sense, a little bit.
Yeah.
It makes sense to me that, it's not sufficient to just get a letter in the mailbox saying you're disenrolled without having any due process.
And you would also agree that the Indian Civil Rights Act is not a just piece of bullshit legislation though, right? The Indian Civil Rights Act specifically states that tribal government cannot and will not violate a citizen's civil rights. Their right to redress grievances being the first and foremost, right to free speech. That's exactly what happened, and no due process was allowed for the disenrollments. So it sounds like essentially there could be an agreement made that the disenrollments were basically not done correctly, or actions to, one thing you can't get over. Again, there was no action that I'm aware of that was taken where a citizen committed any kind of treason. They didn't do anything. They didn't embezzle money. They didn't try to defraud the tribe of anything. They took no action except for bringing up and raising a concern that there was impropriety going on with funds. That point has been proven. So it cannot be a thing that because the citizen raises a concern, you disenroll them because you don't want to have to address it. And that's exactly what Kenny and Adrian did.
You talk about the funds, there was a time that some of your people went to the bank to try and get into funds. You guys passed a resolution to that effect.
No,
All this is after-
all this is after establishing a government. We took and sent a letter to the bank, and the only thing that letter was to do was basically to freeze the funds of the bank until we could get a forensic audit done and find out, because we didn't want to get into that mess, period.
We just wanted to stop the corruption that was already happening. That
So
no,
again,
that no
we
one
voiced
would
the
listen
concern.
about.
The political retaliation was to take and work through CHP to disenroll citizens so they couldn't vote, so they couldn't bring actions against the perpetrators of the corruption. So then taking and going through and then still standing behind that at the basis is absolutely wrong. We can't move forward until you heal that wound. The only thing that I was really saying is give y'all the opportunity, because this will be a reflection on y'all. This is no bearing on us as a group. This is a reflection on y'all to the citizens to say, hey, look, we went back and looked at this and we fixed this.
We renounced it from get-go.
Yes, we actually took a citizen vote, passed a resolution of over 100 people to basically rescind that resolution anyway. So the resolution has no bearing. Again, it was null and void. There was multiple reasons why it was null and void to start with because it was an illegal vote. It wasn't done properly. No governing document allowed it, period, whatsoever. The gross misinterpretation of Robert's rules is not a standard for that. And then the fact that in a meeting, citizens voted to rescind that resolution anyway. That was the easy, and using the bylaws. So by using the law of the nation, that was gone and undone. Do y'all disagree with that? That citizens should not be able to rescind a tribal resolution in a vote? Because citizens pass resolutions, not a council, but citizens. That's the issue with talking about the new set of 2023 bylaws that we all know are not, because they were never presented, just like the Constitution. The Constitution was not presented to the people for a vote that was documented, therefore the BIA.
Wait a minute, the 2023 bylaws was voted on. It was presented. I don't have it in front of me, but it was.
It was presented in a meeting of
Yes,
citizens,
it was in a meeting.
an announced meeting of
Yes,
citizens.
and she would have to pull the.
In February of
the
2023.
minutes- The minutes for that, because I don't have them, but it was taken.
Yeah. Diane, there was
If
no,
my plan 72 received any kind of email, there's
Yeah.
72 of us. I don't
Yeah.
recall any notification on that.
Okay.
the February 2023, tribal council meeting was actually canceled.
I don't think. it
By
was-
email.
I don't think it was February.
It wasn't. Because we had one in January. The February meeting was canceled, and then that's when this meeting was supposed to take place. But an email went out to cancel that meeting. And then there was another meeting in March.
March.
Yes, ma'am. So there could have been no passing by citizens vote because there was no meeting conducted. That was open anyway to the majority of the tribe.
I would
It
have
doesn't
to.
even matter because the BIA does not recognize that document.
They have it.
It's not recognized.
It's not on the floor yet.
Evidently it is. They told us they have it, and that's what they.
They
Well,
might have it, but
they
it's
may
not
have it, but they're not
recognized.
recognizing
I mean,
it.
they have their bylaws too,
And
so. I mean-
I would go as far as to say that in July, y'all submitted paperwork to HUD and a tribal resolution to HUD in July of 2023, correct? Yes, ma'am, y'all did.
Yes, we did.
That's a statement of fact. That resolution that was sent to HUD in July 2023 referenced the 2013 bylaws. So if the February 23 bylaws were valid and in place, that would have been what you would have referenced in your document. Because that document, if it's sent incorrectly, has legal ramifications because you're sending a fraudulent document to HUD.
Well-
So you correctly recognize the 2023 or the 2021, the 2013 bylaws in that resolution. I don't think that was done by mistake. So again, the February 2023 bylaws are null and void as well because they weren't presented to the citizens for a vote.
Well, I know they're in the minutes somewhere, and I will get that.
Okay.
The minutes for that meeting.
Well, you would have to have an open meeting.
It was an open meeting.
Well, I'll respectfully disagree. but-
Okay, that's fine.
So anyway, so we can move past
Now we have a
this.
question from the BIA. They recognize as their legal document the 2013 bylaws.
Because we've sent them a set of bylaws too that was actually voted on by citizens in an open meeting.
Well, I will get you something from the BIA too, because I just
Because
talked to
several
them the other way.
citizens have reached out to him and asked
I did.
for that information. and
July
that's why they did that.
July 25th, I got a response from Kim Bouchard that stated that the 2013 bylaws were recognized by the Bureau. So,
Okay.
Good to know.
and I mean, that's posted, that is actually posted on social media. So that's one of the good things about social media. You can broadcast things to a wide, net. And I can email you that letter.
From Kim Bouchard?
Yes, Kimberly Bouchard, July 25th. And all it goes back to and references is the fact that we had the IBI decision in it.
Well, I've got the documentation that was sent to me by that, and I can send it to you too.
Well, we can pass the email back and forth.
That's fine.
And that's
That's
when the
fine.
BIA did put their hand a little deeper, dig their hole deeper.
Well, like I said, the whole thing is, there's an opportunity for y'all. It has nothing, it has no bearing on us whatsoever, really. But it's an opportunity for y'all to correct the manifest injustice of the illegal suspension and disenrollment.
And we have.
You don't
started-
have to take an action on it.
No, we have started talking to some of the people individually that would have been suspended. So,
That have been suspended but not been.
So, I guess, Bobby, you've done nothing wrong in this whole process,
They've
have
reached out to us to request, and I
Yes,
think
no
their
question.
due process.
Have
You
I
done-
done anything?
Had, what I'm saying, I'm looking at you now. You've done nothing wrong in this whole process, right? You're the innocent guy. You've done nothing wrong, correct?
The actions I have taken.
Yes or no?
The actions I have taken, and what do you reference as wrong, Dickie?
Oh, I'm just
So I'm
asking you.
saying, the
You
actions I have
stood and
taken
you- hold
are
on,
legal
hold on.
actions. Have you taken any?
You stood in the parking lot, you stood on the street,
Is that a bad action?
Who is that hurting? Just as a,
Roxanne, I'm
General
talking to Bobby,
question.
please. Thank you.
Well, he can start.
But I'm just saying,
Rude.
it's
very
like,
rude.
it's like, you're sitting there telling us everything bad that we've done. Am I correct?
I'm telling you the mistakes that were made.
Okay. Have you?
I'm not addressing it as bad, I'm just
All
saying
right,
there's
let me,
mistakes
have
made.
you made any mistakes?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, that's all I was asking.
Have you made any mistakes?
Yes.
Okay, so correct yours, and mine are simpler to correct. The mistakes that I have made, or did I, publicly, do something that offended somebody, I've apologized for those things. But when it gets into the legalities, no, I have not. I have not violated any laws. I've not violated tribal law, because I have very specifically followed the 2013 bylaws to take the actions that were taken to represent citizens. And I carried that forward in strict adherence to those. Moved forward and voted. So everything we've done, I can base in law. Whether it's Indian civil rights law, other IBIA decisions, everything there, I have done in the bounds of law.
Well, how about the lawsuit?
What lawsuit?
Would you get all these people's names together? And y'all were trying to get a lawsuit to get money? Each individual was.
Don't put y'all, I was not part of that
That
lawsuit.
wasn't part of.
It was
There was-
named, signed, how much each individual was asking for.
Yeah, you were on that.
You
No,
were.
it was
She
not.
was not.
I was
You
not.
You might
part of
not
that
be, but
lawsuit.
you
Not
have,
y'all.
you all in a group, Bob.
I believe
Wait a
that
minute, let me finish.
Courtney, Anita,
Yes.
Susan, that was not us.
So y'all wouldn't be on the sand zone?
Yeah, I was.
You had a
And
lawsuit?
I think my name might have been on the piece of paper.
Yeah.
It was.
so-
But I think it was for $1,000 to, the Keating withheld of CARES funds or something.
First,
Okay.
I'm unaware of this,
But
so.
Bobby,
I-
I'm just saying,
I don't
that
think
was,
this
those
is-
names were on there. Okay,
Yeah,
on
they
the
were.
lawsuit. Your name.
John
Anita.
Sparks' name was on a lawsuit. Did John
No,
Sparks
no,
get this
We're not
enrolled?
talking about John Sparks. Hey, remember what you said, we're not talking about your dad. We're talking about you, okay?
Okay.
You. And the other individual's name was on there, okay? So that tells me, if you thought enough about your people and thought about this nation, why would you try to sue your own people's body?
Because the purpose of that lawsuit was to bring forward basically the illegal actions that were being taken against citizens. That's all that lawsuit was for. Based on an illegal action of disenrollment. That ended up getting into basically being a way to recognize one tribal government versus another. That's all that lawsuit was. Because I promise you I didn't need the $1,000.
Well, why'd you go get a lawyer, Bob? What was the
Because
purpose of
there
that?
needed to be help to take and combat what was going on illegal.
Yeah, but that, to me, that seems like you
No,
just
that's
out
the-
for money.
that's the
You're-
right way
there's no
to take
concern
advantage
about
of
it, all
something.
about.
I just have a quick question. So what's the difference between this citizen over here and this citizen over here? Nothing. So he had the exact same right as this citizen over here.
Yeah, but I'm just
He was
saying,
legally obligated to the exact same thing as this citizen over here.
I don't think anybody on the outside has even thought about a lawsuit. But you all did.
Don't say you all.
There's plenty of
Name
people who've
them.
been
I
thinking
just
about
told you, it's a
suing the
list of
My
tribe.
name's not in there,
Okay,
so don't
it's a
say
list of
you
names,
all.
it's a list of names, though, that's what I'm saying. Other
But if
people.
that's their right to go to court, that's their right. Just like y'all didn't, how many settlements have y'all settled? With people. Which was what? Taken away from air citizens as a whole. All them settlements, all that money y'all have, given away,
Given
that
away?
affects every citizen.
Affect us too.
John Sparks sat on that
Exactly,
council and he brought a
But
suit.
you want to complain over $1,000.
So don't say
Somebody
nobody
filed
did.
$1,000.
$1,000,
What
it's
is
more
the
than
difference
$1,000.
of settling 1,000 for 120,000?
I don't know that.
It has no bearing on, the lawsuit had no bearing on this
I'm
discussion
just saying
anyway.
though, it was money there.
You're trying to say that we're bad actors because we brought a lawsuit. The purpose of the lawsuit and the intent was the lawsuit was to get into the tribal affairs to show the corruption and the illegal things that were going on. Those things have been proven. And you can deny that sitting there, you can not like it, but you had a hand in it that you should get out of and try to displace yourself from.
Why?
Because
And
you were
where's my
part of
name?
council. Yes, sir, you were part of council. Again, your job as a council person is to protect the citizenship and to protect the nation. So you signed off on things and allowed a trial administrator and a chief to take in, and a person that was running HUD to make egregious errors and willfully misconduct themselves, to allow for funds to be taken away from the nation, to essentially be embezzled. So yes, you have a part in hand in that,
So-
unfortunately.
All right, you said it's a mistake, we all make mistakes.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we were going off what they say. It'd be the same thing with you, just like what you said.
Ignorance of law does not absolve the
Well,
action.
You can look at it just like I can.
But I'm not saying anything. I'm saying you can make a mistake.
Yep,
This is people manipulating other people
that's right.
to help them make and do their corrupt acts. So while yours was a mistake, but again, that doesn't absolve you as a person that is on a council that is supposed to be protecting citizens and protecting the nation from your due diligence.
The problem is we had to get the facts.
I agree. But you have the facts now, and there's other facts that I know that y'all have.
There were facts.
Yes.
We had several documents, Lou, you know. You know. Dean, you came to the meeting.
Good test. I was at-
We told you.
Let
her speak.
I told you I would show you anything you
And I
wanted to
said,
see.
I know, oh, yeah, and I told you, Contessa, I said, bring them forward now, and you didn't, you walked away. I told you that day at that meeting, I said, you
I
got
had
evidence.
him, I had him at the meeting. You
I
know,
wasn't
that-
even
that
on the
one
count,
meeting-
anything that you should have
that
took
one
them right
meeting,
into
I
the.
had him, and I confronted Kenny in front of everyone. I said, Kenny, that's not
Well,
what
see-
you signed. I have it right here. If anybody wants to see it, they can walk up here and look.
I
Did
can
it
go
not?
back, I can go back, she come to me,
I told you, we
she
had
come to me, and
everything.
and I said, she was crying. I
This is
said,
in
"Contessa,"
2020.
Yes.
I don't know the date, I said, Contessa,
When
she
are we
said-
gonna put Kenny to bed?
Well,
We're still living
It's still-
bring
it's still
Kenny
a
up in
festering
every
sore.
goddamn argument.
Yes,
from
until
here to
something
try to-
happens for
So you got-
accountability or a council listens to the citizens.
What? We can't hear over everything.
We're gonna keep perpetuating the mistakes that was made while Kenny and Adrian were here. We're still gonna have to live with it and deal with it. But that's what we're doing. We're sitting here we are willing to try to help get this resolved. That's why we're here.
That's why we're sitting here We
too.
should
That's
make,
how
the
I
basis of
your
everything
side of
right now
everybody.
is that Kenneth and Adrian started all this.
We
Me
wanted
and
to hear
Diane
y'all.
walked into it and started
And
figuring
Diane, you
things out,
you
things
was
were coming
treasurer
to
until the end
light.
of 2021.
So,
Yeah, I
yeah,
signed checks. that's
they'll
it.
always be a part of it, Mark, is the basis
Except for
of
in
all of this anyway.
2018 when you
So you
said
have to
you
right
were
your
a
wrongs.
person.
So the whole thing is,
Excuse us? Excuse me?
Didn't you say that you were a council person in 2018 when you were federally recognized? Didn't you sign off on a constitution as a council person? So we can say that mistakes haven't been made by plenty of people in this room when there were.
In 2018?
2018.
well, we don't need to dredge up. I
I'm
don't even
just
need to go
saying.
back. Only
I'm
thing
just
I'm
going
trying to
say
do is move
this.
forward.
This is what I wanna say. We came here in good faith. When this meeting started, it was obvious that the legality of the suspensions and disenrollments is where you want it to go without listening to the citizens, which has been happening for years. This is how we got to this point. You don't realize that as the government body, your citizens, you're supposed to be the voice of every citizen. And how do you get that voice? By listening. Listening. No one listens. Everybody is pointing the finger. Everyone. Everyone. I'm not suspended or disenrolled. You can do that. It won't be legal. But I hurt for everybody that was. Do you care about the citizens? Why did you run for this position if you don't care about the tribe? The tribe is the citizens. It is not you,
I think we
you,
care about
you,
them.
you,
That's why we
you,
got
or
this
you.
meeting
It is
right
not
here.
me. It
That's
is
why I've talked
all
to you a
of
couple
us.
times. Dean has talked to you a couple times, Bobby.
Me and Bobby's talked before.
Because
But we gotta
actually
get
do
past the
wanna
talking.
work-
We gotta get to where we're taking
I know,
action.
but we wanna work together, but we gotta hear everything.
Well,
And-
that's the thing, the easiest thing to do for y'all to take in making a step in the positive directions to the citizens is to take in, acknowledge that those suspension and disenrollment, you don't have to take any blame for it. It's, if we disavow the illegal suspensions and disenrollment actions, there was no basis for those in our governing document. however y'all wanna word it, that's an action that y'all have to take to the citizenship. Because other things are looming out there, right? There's a meeting that's gonna be in December, or there's gonna be a meeting at some other point in time, where the same action by citizens is to remove that entire council. And that's a growing, after Saturday's meeting and the discussions and the things that come up about Adrian, and that's not gonna get any better. We can sit here and lie and joke and or whatever else about it, but the things that Adrian done and the issues that are facing this body, because it's not our body, the issues that y'all are gonna have to deal with, the OIG investigation, what comes out of that, what actions are taken and what restrictions are placed on the tribe as far as funding, or what steps are necessary. But what information is gonna come out of that, again, it goes back to Adrian and CHP, whether they manipulated Kenny or they didn't. I would rather think that they manipulated Kenny and he wasn't a willful actor in any of that. But there is gross misconduct, and CHP is guilty of it. CHP has taken millions of dollars from this tribe that I would say in court is illegal. Period. Because the money taken as part of CARES and ARPA, there's no basis in the governance for those funds to pay a lawyer, an attorney, the amount of money that they got. But that's a percentage that we agreed to that hasn't, there's been no documentation, we certainly hasn't been challenged as far as court. So there is an opportunity to go back, because if you look at a lot of tribes didn't pay near that. They paid a percent, 1%, 2%, not 10%, not 5%. So CHP directed things to favor CHP. Adrian took advantage of his position and his friendship, or whatever you want to call it, to take advantage of. And that, again, what we know about now is going to get worse.
Okay, so when Diane and I, came into office or whatever, then we were technically supposed to sit down with Adrian Compton, and of course he took a 6-week leave to go to Australia, so we never really got to talk to him, get caught up on everything that he felt like we needed to be involved in or know about. We started going in, finding things, I started questioning Diane's question, and everything, and I'm not gonna sit and never say that I never agreed with anything that you guys had said, because it was brought to light. I was like, they have a leg to stand on. This is true, this is what's happening. So, in those additions that we found out all this information, we needed extra information to terminate these people due to their contracts that were drawn up, that they had drawn up to protect the people in the office. Each person had a contract. I think I told y'all about that, but whether they walked or whether we fired them, we'd have to pay their salaries. So we had to get those dissolved in order to just fire Adrian, because we couldn't just fire him, because if we fired him, we would have to pay him over $500,000 according to that contract. So in order for us to get out of that lawsuit, if we fired him, we had to wait to dissolve the contracts with everybody in the office. So at this point, we have tried to rectify some of the stuff that was said by you guys that was true, of course. Adrian is no longer here, Kenneth is no longer here, Christy Moyer is no longer here, Shelley Lavati is no longer here. So we're progressing to get things back on track in the way they need to be. My question to you is, do you believe in disenrollment at any point?
I don't really believe in the disenrollment, but I'm like you. I think there has to be a process. The process is in places because the bylaws and understanding the bylaws are direction to the tribal government or to a government, right? Bylaws don't have any place, there's no means to take action against the citizenship in a set of bylaws, because it's corporate governance.
Right.
A constitution is in place to take actions against citizenship. So I agree that there needs to be in place rules established for discipline.
Okay, that's me. So we're on the same
A
page.
discipline that doesn't violate a citizen's rights,
Right.
whether you like something or not. So the more and the deeper you delve yourself into that, the harder you understand that is to take action against a citizen for really anything.
Right.
But the governing body that violates, bylaws and things, that's already in the bylaws, right? You can be removed for non-feasance, malfeasance, yada, yada, yada. So yeah, I agree that there needs to be.
Disciplinary action
Yes.
of some sort.
Yeah, probably not disenrollment, because nothing really arises at that occasion.
Okay, and the only reason I'm asking is because, that's like right now, we're sitting here, you have your governing body, this is the governing body. How are we gonna get past that point? How do you get past that point when you don't recognize us as the duly elected?
So let's talk about that
Yeah,
specifically.
because I need you to clarify this for me.
I do,
because-
and I wanna clarify it. So we're talking about bad actors, right? Right, wrong, or indifferent. We now know that Adrian did things incorrectly. We don't know the depths of the illegal actions. Kenny was part of that CHP. We can't go by the legal advice that he gave. So they conducted the election that happened last year. And Amber was the secretary and part of that election with an outside. That election was conducted against the 2013 bylaws. Because all the ballots for that election did not require a notary, which the bylaws state twice that you will have a notarized mail-in ballot. So that violation alone invalidates that election.
It had barcodes.
That does not matter. That is not a notary of public. That is not a formal way to address, because like it or not, anybody could have took those ballots. I could have took your ballot if I got my hands on it, took it somewhere, mailed it in. There's no way for you to even know that I would have had your ballot, period. So there is certainly a reasonable assumption that there could have been, whether there was or not, any misproprietary stuff, anything that happened. Amber's shaking her head like she
There
can
was a
vouch for
resolution
it.
in place by council that allowed for
That
absentee
is
ballots,
not, you
and it
cannot do,
did not have to
the
be
basic
notarized.
fundamentals of the bylaws is you can't pass a resolution that conflicts with the bylaws, Amber. You may not understand that,
They
but that is a
actually
fact.
Secretary of
There
Election
is,
in order to-
does not matter, a resolution cannot supersede a bylaw. The bylaws have to be amended
They were.
only by, no, they were not. Only by a vote of the citizenship. So an amendment would have had to been made to remove the, as a matter of fact, the 2023 that you claim to have passed still has those same two inclusions for the notary requirement for voting. So the election is essentially invalid. That's a legal basis.
Okay, so the election that you guys had for your council,
Mail-in ballots had to be notarized.
so you're saying that that was valid?
It was in accordance with the
All
bylaws.
right, let me ask you one question. Did you send out any information to every citizen via email, mail if they don't have email, anything to all citizens
I
that would have
did.
been counted for people to be able to come and vote
I
for that?
did. And I went as far as, again, so when I tell y'all that I did everything as far as legal requirements for an election, so we published signs in every post office in every county that surrounds this county. So we put up public flyers. We put out social media information. We also ran a 2-week ad in the newspaper, both here in Rockbridge County. So legally, that is the legal requirement per the state of Virginia for an election, period. There is no language in our bylaws that directed anything, so we drafted an election ordinance, and it's a comprehensive election ordinance. That election ordinance we sent to the state of Virginia, had them review the election ordinance, and we had no comments come back against anything that was in that election ordinance. So yes, in accordance with, because we didn't have every citizen's email, neither do y'all. We didn't have every citizen's phone number, neither do y'all, right? So in accordance with, we went above and beyond what anybody else has done for an election in the state of Virginia as far as a tribe.
Who paid for that election?
The election still requires being paid for.
Okay.
So there's still, but the basis of that, so the election firm that was right out here had a valid voting method. Y'all all saw that. You fill out a secret ballot, it goes into the machine, it didn't go in a cardboard box sitting here in this room, right? Again, I'm just telling y'all the legalities of it. So if it's looked at and reviewed by a legal organization, a judge, a court, or whatever, these are the simple things that you point out where our election was valid and where y'all's election was, and it doesn't have to go deep. All you have to do is You violated the bylaws for the ballots. The majority, you had 70 people show up here to vote in person. We had an equal number. It was, so, the whole thing is that all the mail-in ballots, you could consider compromised, easily.
But we didn't receive any, I ain't received no ballot from you.
Nothing.
Yeah,
Did-
we didn't
No.
get
Did
one from
you,
you.
so you, but you didn't know about the election that was standing right outside the door? But
No.
you dumped water on the election machine.
I didn't know from what I.
Yeah, you did, when you took the tent down. So
We
you
all-
can't say that you didn't
I
know
didn't
about
say
the
I did.
election.
Mark was the one by.
Either way, you were standing right there, the guys was out there, you knew they weren't part of yours, so you can't say you didn't know.
And there was videographer
I didn't
across the
matter.
street.
The only reason I asked about.
But to say you didn't know about it is false. So you can't lie in this meeting where we're supposed to be honest.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I just want you to be honest with us. That's all I'm asking.
I
It
don't
goes
have
both
any
ways.
reason to hide. There's nothing for me to hide. There's no reason for me to be dishonest.
All right, I wanna
I'm
ask you.
honest to a fucking fault.
Okay, I wanna ask you one more question. Right now, we're sitting in this room, we're looking at one another. Honest opinion. Who do you recognize as the chief assistant in the council right now?
Who do I recognize?
Who-
What does it matter who I recognize?
Somebody
I'm
just
just
said,
asking honest opinion. I'm asking honest opinion.
Well, if you go by
But
this,
the
the
Indian
legalities of it, it was her, me, and the other council members that were elected.
So there's the point, right there.
And the reason that I asked about the payment of the election is because we were sent the bill for that,
Yes,
and it was sent back.
rightfully.
Okay, and so, and that's my whole question in this whole scenario. If you're sitting here and that statement was just made, that you look at you guys as being that leadership, then why did you have to come to us to ask to list the disenrollment if you look at yourself as the true leadership?
Exactly.
Why are you
I
meeting
told y'all I
with
had
us?
nothing to gain off that. I'm not asking y'all to
I'm just
take
asking. I just need an
a
explanation.
formal action.
That's what
I
I'm
see
saying.
y'all send out a letter to the citizenship.
Okay, so that right there tells us, why are you here? I mean, if you still
Because
think
the
you're
point is,
considered,
honestly,
that you're over
my
top.
thing to come here is to come to a compromise and figure out where we could get as far as two bodies to move forward. Because the simple thing to do is to have another election very soon, like June of next year, to put us back on track. We can stay on track, because it takes a while to set up election and do it correctly.
A full, fair, open.
A
no
full, fair,
disenrollment,
open-
No suspended, there's.
No people having to sign papers
Well,
stating they don't recognize certain people.
All right,
I mean,
listen.
that was illegal
We
too.
got 4 people seats up next year in June.
But there is no we. Again, you have to go back and establish the
Well,
fact,
okay, well, mine's up,
yours is up, Bertha's is up.
Dean and Timmy.
Timmy's is up and Dean,
Yeah.
right?
And
Right.
Amber's, because she's never been
Yeah,
elected.
Amber's never actually been elected
She's
through a
never been on
process.
a process of a ballot of any kind.
But again, that should all be the compromise would have to be, everybody's seat is basically up. You conduct a full, fair, and open election in accordance with the bylaws. That means all the mail-in ballots have notaries, that way they can be verified and confirmed. And then you have in-person voting that's verified and confirmed through a proper election company. Anybody that's afraid of that already tells me, if you're afraid to have another election, then you probably shouldn't be running. Period.
I have to read that.
I have no fear of running a new election. Whether I participate in the election is a whole different thing, but I have no fear of having another election. I want to serve the people, but I want to serve the people. I don't want to serve myself. I want to help the Monacan Indian Nation. I want to help the people that are disenfranchised, that can't afford things, to move forward to a better place. And we can't get there with what we had before or what we're having now, because you still have to follow the rules and you have to answer to the people. And I very much, and I'll say you've taken a stance to where you really don't want to hear the people. That was started with Kenya or whatever, canceling meetings, whatever. But you can't represent, you can't be the governing body if you don't want to represent the people and if you don't want to move forward. You're not gonna please everybody all the time, but you gotta please the people that comes in here and votes for you.
Can I ask you a personal question?
I'm not answering personal questions, but you can ask me a question about
How long have you had your car?
how long have you had your car?
Mine.
Ask that.
the
What does that have
second-
anything to do with
The
it?
second pound mile. I just like to know.
Well, so I've been monitoring since, March
I think it's a
14th,
very great
1977, Monday morning at 5 a.m.
I've been monitoring since November 16th, 19.
Well, I was monitoring when I was in my daddy's ball sack and one of them.
Okay, let's go from there.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, that doesn't have any bearing on the conversation, so.
Anybody else, questions? You've got a lot to think about before December, everybody. Oh.
Yeah, I would say
So
before,
so basically, we're being threatened right now, right?
no, I'm not threatening.
Well,
You're interpreting it as a threat.
no, I mean,
What's
I'm sorry,
the-
I'm
I'm
sorry.
gonna clarify this. No one is being threatened. We're here on good faith, so that
Yeah.
you can make the right decision, the legal decision for your citizens, not for yourself, not to cross your arms and say, these are the laws, and we're gonna stick to it, whether we're wrong or not. Because I can guarantee you that if you get on a social forum, your citizens are gonna set you right about any little mistake you make with the bylaws. They know the bylaws. You might think they don't, but they do, and they know them better than most of the people sitting in this room. It's a 12-page document.
It does.
It's a 12-page
I can
document.
honestly say this man right here.
Read a page every day
If we needed a lawyer,
consecutively.
I'd recommend him right here.
I would.
He's the best lawyer you can have.
You have to
I
be
don't
able
wanna
to hear
go
both
to where
sides.
this is gonna go, because y'all are talking about public humiliation and all that stuff.
No,
This is gonna be public humiliation once it goes to a certain
How
point.
can you say that when y'all calling us thieves and everything?
I wanna say
I
one
like
more
to
thing
know,
to that.
I want, wait a minute,
I'm waiting,
I wanna know this.
I'm waiting.
I wanna see proof where I have ever stole from this tribe.
I don't know who said that,
I
but
know.
if you have, it'll come out, and if you haven't, it'll come out.
But let me ask you a question, as a body, again, we go back to understanding what a tribal council is supposed to be. If Adrian Compton took money and spent it on those properties over there, and as a body, you now know about it, and you were part of that body, are you complicit in that action?
He didn't.
Well,
He did not
we
get
would have no
money.
way if he took money from the tribe, Bobby, and did that.
You
We
wouldn't,
have,
how, what do you mean you wouldn't know?
Bob,
how do we know he took it out of the treasury?
Do you know where any of the funds are as
Listen,
the council?
Wait a minute.
It's your responsibility as council to understand where all those funds go, to see reports, to block things like this off. If you don't know that, how do you know he didn't? How do we as citizens know that none of y'all have taken a personal credit card and went and made purchases? The question is twofold.
No, I have.
Up until this HUD audit was going to reveal some things, everybody was denying that any of those things happened too. Even though we said it repeatedly,
Do you
we
really-
showed proof of some things,
That was previous,
Young
because if
lady,
you would've
do you
asked
really
me,
think
I
that-
would tell you.
and some people.
And I
did.
reiterated that in a meeting,
Some
that
people
took
did.
place. So, I mean, the
I also
transparency
wanna
thing that
say
we
that
wanted,
from people saying things about people, there has been plenty of things on all sides that have been posted in a public forum. Take, for example, Rick Lawhorn. There was a scathing letter posted about him full of fiction on the public website for the Monacan
Yes,
Indian
that's a
Nation,
long time ago.
and it was there. But I'm saying, this is people that still connected here closely to all of this. You can't say
And
that
there's also
no
a
one
letter
has
that
ever
says
done
that we're
that.
all after money.
Yeah, and
That was
that's
put out by
not true.
Kenny and Adrian, and some of y'all signed off on it. That our only goal was to take and get the funds from the nation for our own personal use and gain. And it's funny because Adrian and several others seem to have done just that. So,
this is the thing, we can sit here 3 days, 4 days, whatever. All of this, they've been said about, it's water going down that river over that dam. What are you saying?
I don't know what you're
Well, wait,
talking about.
but you can't say that if you're saying, because again,
I haven't
there's
even
growth.
finished saying what I was saying.
You wanna say it's water under the bridge, but you can't.
No,
because
I'm
you're still
not
in
basing,
place.
we
what he's
can't,
saying is that he still feels like there's gross negligence within the office, and that's probably dealing with the financial officers upstairs in reference to them knowing and signing, look,
But there's also violations to the bylaws even for y'all's elections, so you can't, and that's black and white, so you can't deny that. So if at the basis, you admit that, hey, yes, our ballots went out and they didn't have, this was done incorrectly, but y'all have to admit that. That's an action that y'all have to.
Your election, well, trade off on the elections. Your election's no good and theirs is no good.
But that's, I'd be perfectly, that's what we're
what
saying. And we hold a new election in June.
Election. There's no
A full
disenrollment,
open
there's
election.
no suspension, who runs is who runs, who gets voted in is who gets voted in.
That's the compromise.
Bobby, did any of your?
And, okay, so we will take that, we will take that into consideration and talk about that as us, what they just suggested, that's something that can be looked at.
That's fine with
Our
Yeah,
entire
I can
council
be
has
in
already
agreement
agreed to
with
that, just the FYI.
Well, I'm just saying that I can say that I can agree with that, if that's what's needed. And, yeah, we're gonna, yeah.
If we don't have somebody, you know, going through all of our elections, like the IBI, going to come back and pinpoint, this is what you did wrong, this is what you did wrong, this is what we did wrong. You don't have that.
Yeah.
Is everybody still on Zoom?
Bobby, did anybody that didn't vote, that knows you, I mean, Block Bridge, did anybody vote in the, not your election, but this election? Did anybody run for any council seats, anything?
They weren't allowed to.
No one was allowed on either ballot.
The only person that even attempted to, and which, that's a whole different thing, but y'all, not y'all, I'm sorry, Kenny and Adrian and CHP and Amber kicked Junior Redcross off, which Junior had, submitted his resignation to our council to run in y'all's election, which he should have been allowed to run in y'all's election, or the Branham election.
I didn't know that.
Absolutely.
Made public posts, Lou, about it.
Hold on, May 20th, May 20th, I have a memory like an elephant, fellas. May 20th in this very room, May 20th in this very room, Junior brought that to y'all's attention in this very room. The people that was running for the election sitting all in a table here in front,
At the meeting.
and at that meeting, Junior brought that up, and Kenny wanted to wash it under the rug. So that is a violation to an election in itself.
And you said what? The committee what?
The committee decided that.
Which
I
committee?
didn't vote on that.
The election committee?
Yes, the election.
But who does the committee answer to?
Should have been the tribal council.
I honestly thought Junior pulled back himself.
No,
Okay.
sir.
Okay, all right, I
He
didn't.
got a
Got a
letter
letter.
to that effect.
Who gave the election committee the authority who gave them the authority to be able to do that?
CHP asked Steve
And
Neiman.
what's in your election code? I don't know.
I have to go back and look because I wasn't.
There was
that vote.
there was no election.
And your election code
But the
has to
election
follow
committee,
bylaws.
because he was on their side, or there was evidence, there was physical evidence that he was trying, if I recall correctly, this has been a long time and I had just lost it. And, that he was with their group, and that was the evidence, all the evidence that he had, applied for your council or tried for your.
So did y'all bring him forward and have due process with him to say, no, you didn't? So again,
And so they-
that's a legal issue.
And then I called and
We
discussed it
never,
with him, and
we
he
never
agreed.
knew about that happening.
He did concur.
Doesn't absolve you of it.
CHP
Hold
did
on,
that.
hold on, please. Who concurred? Who concurred?
Red Cross, when I called him, we and him spoke, and, he was a really nice man, I had never spoken to him before. And I explained everything to him and explained what the committee had decided, and he did not, he didn't bow up, he said he understood. And we hugged it out at the next meeting.
And resigned and asked for a letter of resignation from us so he could run in y'all's election. He turned it back in and was still
And you
not
had
able
that
to
letter.
vote back.
And this is after, with the
No.
decision had been made, no, I'm explaining what happened.
No, you're not.
Between him and myself.
Yes, she is.
I
We
attended
listen
at
to
our
you.
next meeting, we had a tribal meeting, and I went up to him, because personally, I might have had a different feeling, but so I went to him and, was like, if you're in your heart, you really wanna be able, come back to the people, and you wanna show, in good faith that you're trying to bring unison, then I think that you should come to the meetings, and you should get involved, and maybe try to join committees and things like that, to show that you're not with the other group, but you don't believe, because he was telling me that he didn't believe what y'all were standing for, okay? And I said, well, if that's the case, then, you know, Monicans are loving, and you can come back, and we had a little tear, we hugged it out in the back,
Great speech.
and that's what happened.
It's still illegal.
He
Understand, your
agreed
great
to
speech
recuse
is
himself.
still illegal.
He concurred, he did not.
So Junior didn't go and look for representation to potentially,
He didn't bring it before he had that, he had the floor,
Did he
that tried to
recuse
meeting, that
himself
if he
in
decided
writing?
to,
Yeah.
he could have.
I-
He did.
Okay,
He just
fine.
supposed to talk to me after the meeting.
Thank you for answering that. What's contested?
Like, my whole thing is, I think y'all know where we stand with the whole election thing, with the disenrollments. That's not only for us, cause I tell you, I've never asked for anything from this tribe, and I don't, you know, like, I am Monacan, whether you wanna admit it or not, I am Monacan.
That's right.
Like, I do not need, you know, no rental assistance, I do not need anything, any services, whatever, cause I'm Monacan no matter what, and I work hard every day. So, that's something, the disenrollments and suspensions is something that has, you know, overshadowed our entire nation. Not just the people that show up in this room. I have heard from people from all the way out west. I've heard from people everywhere about this disenrollment and these suspensions. So that's on you guys. Like I said, we've already, on their part, that was the very first action we took. It's gone.
And we didn't start this is more.
Maybe not.
Not this bad.
Right,
But
maybe not.
you stand to correct it now.
So, in
And
my
we're
opinion,
doing
like,
something to make
is
it
there
right.
anything else y'all want to offer? I mean, I really feel like we've showed where we stand with the all open fair, no disenrollment, no suspension, everybody can run in this election, and who wins is who wins.
that's the compromise.
Anything,
Does that
anybody
include,
wanna
does
add?
that include individuals from other states?
It was in the bylaws, it
Yes,
states you
you're
have to
allowed
have
that.
so many seats in other
Right,
states.
yeah.
There would be a lot of things to work out.
It's
Five.
like 7 in state and 5 out of state.
It's 2/3 of the body, 7 Virginia and 5 from non-Virginia.
We used to have that a long time ago.
Dean, you use the analogy of a river and a dam. Right now, this is the dam and it's blocking the flow of the water. We can't go until this is resolved. It's just going to keep stopping the flow and disrupting things.
I never got to finish what I was saying.
It's his analogy.
I understand it.
Okay.
We assume. I'm sorry.
Well,
Listen, I interrupted you, I'm sorry.
my last comments will be again to basically where we stand at as far as facts, right? There's other things that are coming out. OIG has a report that's coming out, HUD has a report that's coming out. We know that there's not good things in these,
Yeah.
right?
In the HUD, for sure.
And yes, absolutely. So we agree to that. We also agree that there is a standing IBIA decision that's gonna be coming out, that's gonna be reviewed. We also know in December, the citizens expect that as two groups, we have come to terms to present them something that they can vote on and agree to. Or there's gonna be a vote in here to remove the council members anyway, because that was a motion that's moved to that meeting.
And disenroll all of us.
Well, he said cancel, so that means there's something.
Well, what happens if that happens then?
Same
What?
thing that have a troll in all seats now.
So yeah, basically you sit in here and go for an, I don't know I don't know all the stuff to that, but what I will assume is that there will be, just like was done in the past, a vote in this room to establish an interim council that just muddies up the water more. Absolutely does.
Yep.
Don't disagree. So there, we can all agree. But it's gonna be a group of people in this room that are voted in as interim council. I would expect in that same meeting, there's other actions taken, but in that same meeting right now, there has to be a vote for a forensic audit. Because we said y'all agreed to that, to bring that in December,
We did,
right? And we are already working on that.
we did.
So we are going to find the audit firm. We'll probably have, yeah, we'll have quotes and everything ready to establish and have people in this room vote on it that day. So all of that's coming in December, or whatever happens. The worst things is, we told the citizens we was gonna do at least 2 things. Whatever else happens after that in December meeting, I don't know.
Yeah,
But
because
those are the-
we were all
those
in
are-
agreement about the forensic audit before we left that day. I think everybody was pretty much yes. that's needed to clarify everything that's been said and anything that puts people's mind at ease and puts it to rest. Because I'm all for that. I mean, me, myself, I'd like to know where it happened, funding went.
And the
So-
citizens are gonna look at a vote. It's not gonna be whether, it's gonna be the same things I just pointed out, and those things are in black and white. Y'all absolutely have to agree, you have violated the 2013 bylaws. It's in black and white. The election violated the bylaws. So, again,
I still wanna look more into that, so I can
like I said, there's two places
educate myself for that format.
in the bylaws that specifically state that you have to have, mail-in ballot notarized.
Well, I do the same thing with y'all too, Bobby, so.
We did, we had mail-in ballots that were notarized though.
But we didn't receive anything from you, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but you
So-
stood right there. Again, you can't argue that point. You
We had
knew there was an
ballots
election
out
going
there.
on
I
right
could
there.
argue anything I wanted.
Y'all's point was that that was an illegal election. I don't blame you. We didn't vote in y'all's election.
You
Right?
just come here to set up your,
So we can agree to disagree.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
that's a
again-
good place to
That's,
stop.
we can agree
Yeah.
to disagree.
But that's just what I'm saying. So, I mean, it's a roll of the dice. Again, there's no repercussions on our side whatsoever. None of this stuff comes back on me, Contessa, the council, because we are not in charge of any funds. Right? We don't have an action against us to remove us as a body. Nothing in this OIG report or, HUD audit comes back on us again. I don't have any dealings with it. I can't approve anything. I didn't sign off on anything, right? So, those are the standing facts that you can't get around. And you're gonna have to answer, not to answer to me, you're gonna answer to the citizens. I would rather go to the citizens as a unified body to say, hey, look, we have talked about this, discussed this, we're willing to go forward in this manner, and we all agree to it. Some of us under duress. Right? And then we can move forward and we don't have to get into all the other, we're still gonna have to deal with whatever the OIG finding is and the report from there. You're still gonna have to deal with the HUD stuff.
Yep.
But it's also certainly easier to deal with those things without having to deal with the conflicting bodies. Because honestly,
Not only that, you can-
I'm gonna take all that information and I'm gonna use it full tilt if I have to. No bones about it. So let's not get there.
You burn it all
So it
down.
sounds like a threat.
No.
That's what it sounds like. It
No, it's
sounds
not
like
a threat.
It's a threat.
It's
And
gonna
you
be
talk-
damning
you talk about
information.
being for the people and stuff like that. That's not being
That
for the
is for the
people.
people.
You trying to burn it down like that.
No, it's not burning it down. It's putting people accountable for their actions or non-actions. Period. But there's no sense in getting there. Some of it's gonna come out anyway.
Let me
Let
just
me
point
ask
out
you a question,
another
Bobby.
scenario.
Bobby.
How many people,
So, we all had a new election. This whole body's gonna change, right? It could be some of us, some of you, some of them, never know. That body has a better chance at going after CHP, recouping money, than any of the other bodies.
Lay the blame where it's squarely
You
supposed to
cannot
go.
sit here and be like, oh, I done exactly, what he told me to, da-da-da, and like, oh, the lawyer, told me to do this, and that's what I did. Because I failed to do my own research. I mean, that's how that's gonna come back, right? But a new body coming in has that right, no, this is what we found. You say you have paperwork of emails, a paper trail of where CHP said, this is what you do. Turn it all back around. We have
That's
wasted,
absolute.
we have wasted so much money.
basically what it amounts to is CHP has been ineffective counsel for this tribe.
No.
And I think
I
they don't
agree.
fix the
I
trial.
agree too,
I
but
agree.
let me ask you what I wanted to ask you, it's either yes or no. Did you ever send audits out to everybody on the rolls of this tribe in your election?
Audit?
You
mean a ballot?
You mean the,
Ballots, yeah.
you mean the confirmation?
Yeah.
Yes, we did. And we
How
actually had,
come I can approve with 40 different people, well, personally, in my family, close? Nobody received a ballot from you.
did they know there was
I
an
never
election?
received it either.
I told you, I followed all the guidelines. So if I go and
I
stand
don't
in
know
front of
about the
Virginia,
guidelines, I just know
I'll
to be
pass
a
the Virginia
fact
guidelines and I'll
that
pass
the people in
the
Maryland,
scrutiny.
Delaware, and Ohio, some in West Virginia, never got a ballot.
It doesn't
from
matter, it
their
doesn't
people.
invalidate our election.
I mean, we have people here in Amherst County that didn't get a ballot from y'all's election. I mean, we can't sit here and keep doing this tit for
Came right here,
tat.
voted.
We can't do it.
We gotta
Like,
stop this.
Right.
And that's something else that needs to be fixed. We have to figure out people's addresses. We have to make sure due process is done in our elections too. It has to be fair all the way around. We can't just send to some and not send to others.
One group is
But that
not
goes
more entitled.
all the way around.
All I know, they said everybody on the rolls that was old enough to vote got mailed a ballot.
Well, the other part is too, we're talking about CHP. Do y'all think that y'all can take an action against CHP? Could y'all as a body have legal grounds for taking action against CHP?
It's a fine line, but probably.
I asked
No,
this
sir.
question at the tribal meeting and the answer was no.
Y'all could not take an action against CHP because you signed off on too much stuff. So that's the hindrance to try to say that you could potentially leave that body in place.
Because all I'm
Cannot
gonna
happen.
say is look at this room and say, you were there.
You
there,
were part of it, you were part of it, you were
signed
part of it, you were
signed
part of it.
whatever.
Even, every person on this body is part of it, no matter if it was from June of 23 or all the way back to 2020. So you can't bring legal action against CHP. A new governing body can bring the legal action against CHP.
And if you truly say you're for the people, you'd be willing to sacrifice your position to move that forward.
And potentially even get voted back
All their money
in.
back. Like, I mean, starting all over, actually having stuff for our youth, for everyone.
That's not an attack against anyone
No.
personally. It's
It's just a statement of fact.
sometimes you have to sacrifice yourself for the betterment of everyone. Meaning, if you have to step down from a position at work, you step down from a position at work. If you can't lead appropriately or you can't progress us forward, you have to be willing to remove yourself from that position.
It's a little hard to progress forward when we're trying to go back and right all the wrongs that have been done. And believe me, there's been a lot of them. There's been a lot of them.
And to cancel that oversight.
So how do you fix it?
Cancel, you got a treasurer, you got an accountant, like, all these oversights, where were they? Where were they?
So how do you fix it? Do you keep going on with all the wrongs still in place? Or do you fix them the easiest way you possibly can?
The only wrong to fix right now is the disallowables, because
Correct.
everything else has been processed. People have been fired, they're no longer here.
Correct.
And we're still trying to fix their shit,
Correct.
Right.
okay? I mean, literally, it's a daily thing.
So what do we
Trying
do?
to correct
It's slowly, but it's being, it's
stuff that's
improving.
completely out of control.
So what do we do?
Everybody, I think that's it.
I thank you guys for coming.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Appreciate it.
Always coming. Contessa's good to see you again, I hadn't seen you in a long time. But we're gonna take out all this into consideration.
Yeah, any closing comments? We kind of forgot about a large contingent. Any closing comments from
Rufus, anything?
Zoom?
Anybody?
I'm not gonna.
Guess not. Everybody's tired.
Good night, guys, online.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a good night.
You too, thank you.
Next time.
Wait.